Hello friends, today we're having a look at The Last Flame, which is a roguelike auto-battler that was released into early access in mid-January. This game is made by a single-person development team, which is really cool and very impressive. This is overall a fairly nice game for people that are very much into Slay the Spire style games. Like, it's very much inspired by Slay the Spire, but it does definitely do some twists on its formula. And I think if you've played 16,000 hours of Slay the Spire already, then this will certainly be a welcome alternative for you. The Last Flame is also a game that has one major issue though, and that's what this video is about. Now, I want to start out by saying that I don't think this is a bad game. I don't feel qualified to call any games a bad game, and that's really not what I want my channel to be about. I will be critiquing this game through the lens of this one single issue though, and for that purpose I want you guys to kind of think along. So I'm giving you a task for this video, and that is I want you to make all of the decisions along with me. This game will ask a lot of us very quickly, and I want you to actively pay attention. And as I make the decisions, I also want you to think about which decision you would make. Okay, great. Let's get into it. The first thing we have to do here is we have to pick which game mode we are playing. This is not one of the decisions. This is pretty standard, right? There's Ascension, which is your standard run where you assemble a team, you play through the game until you reach the final boss, you beat the final boss, you've won the run, perfect. You do the next run. Then we've got Endless, which is the same thing as Ascension, except in Endless, after you beat the final boss, you can keep going endlessly. It's not particularly interesting, I wouldn't recommend it. Challenge, on the other hand, is really cool. In Challenge, you have all of these pre-designed challenges for you that are super neat. Like, they are kind of wild, honestly. You can see they're pretty complex, and I think this is a really cool feature of the game. We are going to do Ascension, though. There are a couple of difficulties here. We will play on Adventurer, which is not really super hard, but enough to be a mild challenge. And right now I mostly want to just focus on the game and its mechanics. Okay then, let's get into the game. So, the first thing we have to do is we have to pick 2 heroes. We can have a team of up to 5 heroes, and as we go through the game we will get additional heroes to pick from, although not that many, so it does matter which characters we choose. It is actually quite important. Now, you can see we have 7 to pick from. Each hero has a variety of different aspects. Immediately you can see they each have health and mana. Health is obvious, I think we all know how health works. Mana is just what it takes for them to cast their abilities. Well, actually their ability. Each hero has one active ability and then a passive ability. Mana works the way it does in Teamfight Tactics or in Dota Auto Chess. Whenever you attack, you gain mana. If you have maximum mana, then you cast your ability. It's fairly straightforward. Then we also have a bunch of other attributes here. You can see we've got Ranged, Caster, Mana Regen Mastery, Shock Debuff, and Stunner. Or Melee, Physical Damage Dealer, Crit Mastery, and Summons. Or Ranged, Support, Healer. These attributes don't have any hard synergies with each other. Instead, they just kind of give you a loose description of what to expect from the character, right? Like, what is the purpose of this character? Although it does make sense to pick characters that fit into similar categories. For example, these 2 right here both apply Frost or use Frost, so it's generally a good idea to maybe pick them together. Now, you can see each character also has 2 abilities. For example, Flynn has Astral Staff. Every 4 seconds, the hero deals spell damage to its target and nearby enemies equal to 12 times mana regen. And then Lightning Nova. Flynn casts Lightning Nova around the hero with the highest maximum HP, dealing damage to nearby enemies, stunning them for 1.5 seconds and inflicting 2 shocks. So this is what Flynn does. You can see that each of the other characters also has abilities. So this guy, for example, Critical Healing. Every critical strike, the hero heals for 3% of the hero's maximum HP and always summons by 1% of the hero's max HP. And then Summon Wolves. Oka starts the fight at max mana. Oka summons 1 wolf, maximum of 2 wolves. Oka gives X% of his attack damage to all wolves that are on the battlefield. Stacks. Attack damage shared 15%, 15% base plus 0% spell power. Wolves, you can see the stats of them. Over here we've got Rose. Every time the hero heals a hero by any means, all heroes gain 2 spell power. And Rose casts Divinity, healing allies in the spell area. We've got Gerald. Every time the hero critical strikes, we gain 5 gold. Gerald performs critical forging. Nearby heroes gain critical strike chance for 5 seconds. And the critical strike chance increases 25% plus our spell power. We've got Kara, who's got every time the hero critical strikes with an attack, the hero gains a shield for 25% of the damage dealt. And then we've got Distractive Strike. Oh, that's a long one. Kara stuns her current target and the enemies that are currently targeting her for 1.5 seconds and then vanishes to the furthest corner from enemies. Kara heals herself while walking back for 3% max HP per second. Her next attack is guaranteed critical strike and deals additional spell damage based on the distance traveled from her vanished location. She also gains 100% critical strike chance for 3 seconds. You still with me? We can do this. Arya. Quick attacks. Every attack the hero gains 4% attack speed, stacks 12 times, stacks reset when changing targets. And Frozen Arrow. Arya fires a Frozen Arrow on her current target, dealing damage to enemies hit, inflicting free frost and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. Frozen Arrow's animation scales with attack speed. And then finally we've got Eslo. The hero's spell power is increased by 10% of the current shield. When the fight starts, the hero gains 150 shield. And Icy Orbs. Eslo casts Icy Orbs towards the closest enemy, damaging every enemy it passes through. Icy Orbs deals 5% additional damage per frost on the enemy hit. Do you remember what Flynn does? This game suffers from complexity overload. That is the issue I want to discuss today. Complexity overload is a theory where if basically each game has a complexity budget, there's only so much you can ask of the players all at once. You can only ask them to keep so much in mind without them reaching a point where they start zoning out and stop making active conscious decisions. Once you go past that budget, the game starts feeling overwhelming. And I believe that's what this game suffers from. Now, it does have some elements that help it. So you can see, for example, this frost stuff. Okay, you know what? Let's ignore all of the ability stuff that we just read. I mean, if we want to optimize, then we should probably keep it in mind. But we have 2 characters that use frost. Let's just pick them. Let's just pick the 2 characters that use frost. However, we immediately have to make another decision. Now we have to pick a relic. And you can see these relics also have a lot of text. A lot of text. Like quite a lot of text. I'm just gonna go ahead and just pick the Tome of Secrets because it doesn't have as much text as the other ones. But if you want to make a proper decision, you would ideally have to read all of this, right? You have to read all of this and keep all of it in mind. And then you have to think about, well, what would be best? What do I think is strongest? I'm just gonna go ahead and pick the Tome of Secret so we can actually get started playing the game. Here we are on the map. This map is very similar to Slay the Spire. You can see we just kind of crawl upwards. There are some rooms that have special things in them, like small mini bosses, bigger bosses, campfires to heal, shops, and exclamation marks. And then finally there's a boss at the very end that we have to clear. It's all fairly straightforward. Let's go ahead and fight. Here's how the game works. Here's the actual meat and bones of the game. So we fight enemies on this arena, this hex-based arena. We can position our characters freely, except we can't get them too close to the enemies. The enemies will also indicate which unit they're currently attacking. You can manipulate this a bit if you want. This right here is all the decisions we can make regarding the fight, because after we start the fight just happens. Right? We can't actively impact the fight from here. Instead, this is just something that we observe. However, it's all about preparation. That's what the actual game is, right? We prepare for the fights. We prepare our team. We prepare our characters. After we defeat an enemy, after we win a fight, we get one of these treasure chests. And in this treasure chest, there are more decisions to be made. We get to recruit another hero. Yet again, 1 hero out of 4 I guess we start reading. You can see this guy. All heroes gain 1% critical strike chance for every summon on the battlefield, and Savos summons 2 buff bots that rapidly lose HP. The buff bots each provide a buff to all heroes except Savos. The buff is equal to 15% of the bonus attack speed, attack damage, or spell power, whichever is the highest on Savos. Lasts 5 seconds without heals, 15% per buff bots, 30% total. Okay, then we've got another one. We've got Atrios. For every 20% missing HP, the hero gains 1 mana regen. And Molten Shield. Atrios casts Molten Shield, taunting his target, dealing damage to nearby enemies and inflicting 3 burns. In addition, he gains 100 defense for 3 seconds. We've got Chris. Magic Potion. Every 4 seconds, the hero heals the lowest percent HP hero for 60 plus 50% spell power. For every 100 healing done by Chris, he gains 1 Nature Orb, maximum 10. Active, Chris gains 3 additional Nature Orbs and fires all Nature Orbs in quick succession at random targets. Each Nature Orb deals a mix of 50-50 ethereal damage and spell damage and counts as an attack. Nature Orbs count as an attack that does not generate mana. It can apply ethereal damage and other passive effects. That sentence tripped me up a bit. Got Elriel. Every time the hero critical strikes with an attack, all heroes gain 1% attack speed. And Elriel casts Moonwrath on her current target, dealing damage to all enemies hit and healing all heroes hit. Okay, so this time around we don't have the luxury of just picking a Frost character, right? You can see we've no Frost available. And we do want to pick a character though, it's really important, and it does matter which character we pick. I think we're gonna go with Chris because I like having a healer, and this guy seems kind of weird. Next up, we have to pick an item. Items are very important because they make our heroes more powerful. They genuinely make a massive difference. We can re-roll items, so you can see we can pick 1 out of 4 again, and then we can re-roll the items if we want. And hopefully we get something nice, like for example, how does our hero work again? How does Chris work again? Every 4 seconds, he heals the lowest hero for spell power. So we actually want spell power, right? So let's re-roll until we get into some spell power here. Attack speed and spell power. Oh, we get another one. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some more attack speed and spell power, and we just equip that on Chris. Okay. Let's proceed. Over here in the bottom left corner, we have Flame. Flame is your lifeline. If Flame reaches 0 at any point, you instantly lose your run. Flame decreases if your characters die in battle, but we can also spend it for a variety of things. Like, for example, I just used Flame to reroll the items we got. It's fine to spend Flame as a resource, although you don't want to go too far, because you might end up in a situation where you have so little Flame that one of your characters dies in combat, and then you lose the run even though you would have won the combat, right? Like sometimes it's fine for a character to die, they just get resurrected afterwards anyway. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and take this fight. This is nothing too complicated. We have a new buddy after all, who throws orbs at things. Very nice. And then we have another treasure chest. We get some more resources, and yes, we have to pick another hero. We can do this, friends. We can do it. So, rapid recovery. For every 500 HP lost during this fight, the hero gains 10% spell lifesteal, sorry. And then command bite. I am not gonna read it. Look, we need a melee hero, I think, at this point, right? A melee hero, self-shielder. I think we can save ourselves this decision-making process, and we can just pick the guy that seems like a tank, because we need a frontliner, right? Gyachi casts Ether Shield, gaining 150 shield and 10 defense per 100 shield for 4 seconds. After the 4 seconds, Gyachi deals ethereal damage split between nearby enemies equal to all the damage mitigated with defense during the buff. And then Mana Shield, whenever Mana Regen regenerates mana, the hero gains 3% shield received, caps at plus 45% shield received. Additionally, the hero's HP is consumed before their shield unless they're below 25% HP. And then, after we pick a hero, we get to pick an item. Now, the way items work in this game is that the items are made up out of heirlooms and recipes. We combine an heirloom with a recipe to turn it into a proper strong item. Heirlooms by themselves, you can be equipped, but they're not that strong. Recipes can't be equipped. They do need to be combined with an heirloom. Oh man, that's a lot of text again. Every attack, the Vera has a 2% chance per frost and burn on the enemy that has the most of these debuffs to gain 4% critical strike chance and 8% critical strike damage. You know what? I'm just gonna re-roll all of these. I don't think any of them are particularly good for us. Whenever mana regen regenerates free mana, all enemies are inflicted with one random debuff which is active on them. That seems nice. We can get some mana regen going. That seems handy. Don't we have a character that cares about mana regen? This guy? Right? Okay, let's just go with that then. We don't need to read the rest this way. Because, yes, I think you already know what's gonna happen. But we go into the next fight, and the team is made up out of 5 characters, which means we have to pick another hero. At this point, when I showed this game to my Twitch chat, that's where they started zoning out. They started just feeling very overwhelmed, and it was difficult for me to get them to engage with the game anymore. And I think that's, again, it's too much information. The game is asking too many things of you too quickly. Let's have a look at Egar. Fire and Ice. Every second attack inflicts 1 burn or 1 frost at random to all enemies. When below 50% at HP, attacks consume 2 frosts to heal for 5% max HP. And Egar throws his Boomerang Axe, dealing damage in a line. Boomerang Axe deals 5% additional damage per burn on the enemy hit. Can't even read anymore. Okay. Let's save ourselves the rest of these characters. This guy does Frost. We use Frost. Let's just pick him. At this point, I am also zoning out regarding the complexity, right? That's what's happening here. Is that I am no longer trying to pay close attention to what everything does, and instead I'm just kind of picking things. Because I don't want to read everything over and over and over again. Now, let me be clear here. I am not opposed to games that are complicated. You guys know that. You guys know that I play Dota 2. I play Magic the Gathering. I love myself a complex game. Oh dear, there's nothing better than a game that demands your attention and asks you to pay, asks you to learn a little bit. I love that stuff. However, the problem I see with this game right here is just how quickly and how much it is. And a big part of that is just how it is written. Because not only does this game ask a lot from you, but it is very dense in its information, right? For example, if we have a look at this here, every 2 seconds the wearer consumes 2 bleeds on their target to gain 1 mana regen. It's a fairly short line of text. But if we go and actually, deconstruct it, well, what does bleed mean? What is mana regen? I mean, we kind of get what mana regen is, but like, what is it exactly? Well, that's what we got this guide for. So we can come in here, and if we want to, we can read through it. So it says bleed, a debuff that scales well with attack damage and especially critical strikes. Every attack, heroes have a 25% chance to increase their attack damage dealt by 1.5% per bleed on the enemy. And critical strikes guarantee this effect. Okay, so we now know what bleed is. And then mana regen. Mana regen is generated passively over time. You can hover over a hero's mana regen to know the exact amount. This attribute is better than attack speed at generating mana, therefore is better on heroes that have strong actors, while attack speed is better on attack damage dealers. Alright. So now we know what this does. We kind of have an idea of how it functions. But it hides how complex it is while already being complex. Let's have a look at frozen armor here. When the wearer receives damage from any source, they have 30% chance to inflict a frost. Seems great. That's exactly what we're looking for. We can come in here and forge ourselves this with the heavy helmet. Stick this on our tanky boy. There you go. And then we get to choose a reward. Oh dear. These rewards are intense as well. So we can either swap 2 passives between our heroes. We can re-roll a passive, which allows you to change a passive on a hero from 3 other random passives, or keep the re-rolled passives, or we can recruit a hero, which gives us an additional hero. Now, we can use trophy to level up our characters. And as much as we've been talking about the complexity of the characters, actually, the characters are way more complex than that, because as we level up our characters, you can see they gain more stuff. Critical Cooperation at level 2. We get to pick one of these three: Critical Cooperation, Juggernaut Defense, or Red Drakes. Okay. We can level up even further. We can go to level 3. Now the hero gets some stats. And then we could potentially go to level 4 as well, although we're not going to do that. And then we can re-roll this passive if we want to, see if we can find something better. Alright, the hero's critical strike chances increased by the shield. Let's get Omni Crit. So now our guy has Omni Crit, which is, strictly speaking, something that we need to look up again, right? Because we can kind of guess what it means, but it's not clear. But the hero's active abilities, including heals, shields, and stat buffs, can now critical strike. So just everything can crit now. That makes sense. But still, it's more information. When we come in here, you meet with 3 adorable little flames. That's curious. I thought you were the last flame. Anyways. They sing you flame lullabies and dance. You're having the time of your life. You already imagine how you will all be friends until the end of time. But the flames get jealous of one another rather quickly. They want your friendship for themselves. You must choose one. You can't have all 3 of us, they all say dramatically. Choose the blue flame. We lose 20 flame, but we gain a buff. All heroes gain 25 spell power when the fight starts. We can choose the orange flame. We lose some gold, but all heroes gain 25 attack damage when the fight starts. Or we can choose the green flame, which heals a bunch of flame. Well, let's get the blue flame. That seems good. Then we can go to a campfire. Now, at a campfire, we have a couple of options. We can rest, which recovers flame. We can enchant, which upgrades our items. We can reroll origins, which are these over here. These are origins. Or we can research, which finds us a relic. Now, origins are global and permanent team buffs or effects. Picking and swapping origins is free. So there are 6 origins that we can choose from. They all have complex effects. All heroes gain critical strike damage equal to 80% spell power of the hero with the highest spell power. Or Realm Creator. All heroes gain plus 5% heal received for every mana region on all heroes. Caps at plus 250% heal received. Additional, when a hero overheals, the extra is converted into a shield. Or Conqueror. For every critical strike dealt, all heroes gain plus 10% shield received. You can see they're pretty complicated effects. And we do want to pick one, because this is just a free buff. So let's get this. Every 5 seconds, deal spell damage to the enemy with the most frost equal to the amount of frost on the enemy team. 20% times 20% the team's spell power. Well, we are going for some frost, right? That seems good. Let's just pick this up. Then we can enchant our stuff, make this better. It just makes our equipment more powerful. So nice, we have some better equipment now. And then we can go over here and maybe fight a harder group of enemies, right? So bring these guys in here. Put this fella on the back because this is our main DPS. And then we just kind of start the fight. This ice cream cone dude, by the way, kind of goes hard. Like, if you are playing this game yourself, like if you're interested in trying it out and you're not sure what characters are good, ice cream cone dude. Monster. Absolute monster. Alright, so coming here, we get to pick some gold, get to pick an item again, and you can see these items, well, they are recipes, so we got some reading to do. Every second consumes the wearer's HP to deal spell damage to all nearby enemies, 3 times HP consumed. I don't think this is what we want. The wearer gains 4 defense per max mana. Every 5 attacks, the wearer gains a shield equal to 5% max HP. Attack damage is increased by percentage of current shield. I guess we reroll again. This is burn stuff. Wearer gains a shield equal to 60% attack damage. Sure, let's pick that up because we also have to pick a relic. Okay. All heroes gain 20% attack speed but lose damage. Team size increased by 1. All heroes get damaged for 15% max HP when the fight starts. Deal 50 damage per burn to the enemy with the most burn, or 2 hextile buffs gain 55 spell power. I mean, the fishing rod is probably best, right? But we don't have a 6th hero, and then we have to read a 6th hero, so let's maybe just pick this. By now, I believe I have made my point. This is a game that just bombards you with text, and it genuinely gives me a headache when I play it because I have to absorb so much information non-stop. I tried showing this to my wife and she gave up after 5 minutes because she just didn't want to read all of that. Now, let's think constructively, alright? Again, I'm not here to tell you that this game is bad. In fact, I think this game does have quite a lot of merits if you're willing to engage with this much information. After you've played it for a while, you start recognizing aspects of it. You start recognizing, okay, I've played this hero before, I know this hero is good. Or I know how this upgrade works, I've seen this item before. Although there are so many items, I've played this game for 10 hours now, and I still feel like I am constantly finding new things. And you might say that's a good thing, right? And very much it could be if you are looking for that kind of complexity. But let's think from a more, I guess, casual point of view for 1 second. Just from an accessibility point of view for 1 second. And let's have a look at this game and see if maybe we can find ways to make it a bit more digestible. Alright, let's just proceed here. We've got another fight coming up. Now, let's have a look at our heroes maybe, right? You can see, for example, we've got Chris here. Every 4 seconds, the hero heals the lowest percent HP hero for 60 plus 50% spell power. This, I think, is actually a fine ability, right? I do have to say that maybe this could be shorted. We could just say every 4 seconds, the hero heals the lowest percent HP hero for number. Because the game has the information. It could just tell us, right? It doesn't have to say 60 plus 50% spell power. It could just say, I assume we've got 36 spell power, so that would be 78. And then it scales up as we go through the game. That would be less detailed, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the game could have hover tooltips or like old tooltips like Dota has it. Nature's Ritual. This right here is an ability that is very complicated, right? There's a lot going on here. There, for every 100 healing done by Chris, he gains 1 nature orb and max stack 10 nature orbs. So this is something where it's supposed to say, okay, as you're fighting, as you're healing with this character, his abilities become stronger. And then active, Chris gains 3 additional nature orbs and fires all nature orbs in quick succession at random targets. Each nature orb deals a mix of ethereal damage and spell damage and counts as an attack. Nature orbs count as an attack that does not generate mana. It can apply ethereal damage and other passive effects. So this is what I would call designer brain. What's going on here is that a game designer thought, if I let people combine this with a million other things, then they can do such cool combos. I know all of the items that exist in the game. I know everything there is. Let me just, if you take this and this other ability and this passive and this item, oh, you can make an infinite loop. But let's be realistic. Wouldn't this be fine if we cut this down like really, really significantly? Couldn't this just say, Chris fires nature orbs at random targets? You get more nature orbs for the more healing you have done, and the nature orbs deal damage? Isn't everything else here kind of unnecessary? Maybe not. Maybe not. But it would be worth considering if that can just be shortened in that way, right? Because while this has a lot of effects that are clearly designed to allow for a lot of intricate play, maybe this is the kind of thing that would be better off in a game where you only have 1 character, not a game where you have 5 of them. If we have a look at this ability right here, Gyachi casts Ether Shield. So immediately looking at the language here, is that necessary? Does it have to say Gyachi casts Ether Shield? Isn't that obvious? Gaining 150 shield and 10 defense per 100 shield for 4 seconds. This is again where now we have defense that scales with shield, and maybe that's just not needed. Maybe it could just say gaining 150 shield and 10 defense for 4 seconds. Then after the 4 seconds, Gyachi deals ethereal damage split between nearby enemies equal to all the damage mitigated with defense during the buff. This is where we could then also say, after the shield runs out, Gyachi deals damage to nearby enemies based on the damage he has received. That would be simpler, that would be shorter, and it would be effectively the same. Of course, it then doesn't have the ethereal damage. I guess we could still have that in there, and it doesn't scale with defense as nicely. But is that necessary, right? This is the kind of thing where I think with this situation, if you're in a game like this, where you have these issues with this incredible amount of complexity, you need to just cut down. You need to say, all right, where can we trim things? What can I simplify? Where can I say this might not be needed to have all of these effects? Maybe it's fine if it just does a little less. Like, oh my god, I'm just gonna get this and pick a character. I don't want to read it. Alright, campfire. Let's just rest twice so we can get to the boss. Alright, so here's a boss. You can see, what I like a lot about this game, by the way, is this stuff. You can click on enemies and see what abilities they have. And I think it's really nice how the abilities all have little graphics that show you what they actually do. Alright, put this guy here, put this guy here. We will just equip some items, because why not, right? And then we go. Oh, the Hydra is just immediately targeting down my other guy. Well, that's not so great that my archer is getting beaten up. I was hoping that would work out a little differently. Alright. I think we might still be fine. Although it's certainly looking a lot closer than I would want it to. Admittedly, this guy over here does so much damage. 700 damage right there. Yeah. Took him down. We get a reward. We get to recruit a hero. We get to pick a legendary item, which we're just not going to read right now. And then we also get to pick another relic, which, yeah, you know, you get the point. The Last Flame reminds me a lot of mistakes that I used to make. When I was working on my first games, I definitely had a tendency to just make them really, really complex. Because you as the designer, right, you have this kind of top-down lens. You see everything. You see all of the interactions and you think to yourself, oh my god, there's so many fun, cool, possible combinations. But at the same time, it's a lens that I think forgets about the player a little bit. And I think a prime example of that was when I was working on Chroma. I had this idea for the act system which we have in the game that I'm actually really proud of. I like how it turned out in the end. But the first version of the act system was so complicated that I had to explain it to my development team over and over and over again. They kept asking me how it actually works, and they were just really confused by it. And then I scrapped it as a result, because I was just like, look, if you guys don't understand it while I'm implementing it, players are never gonna get it. And it's just not worth it. And then what I did is I used the placeholder system that I just put in, because I had a placeholder system where in Act 2 you just get extra mana. With the complex system, you would have gotten extra abilities and they would all have been unique abilities. But I added in just you get extra mana in Act 2. And that felt really fine. That felt nice. That felt good. And then we just left it that way. And I'm really happy with that version of the game, to be honest. So complexity is something where you have to be very careful with it, I think, right? If you spend too much of your complexity budget on just things that aren't necessary, then you can either distract players away from the stuff that is a core component of the game, the stuff that you do really care about, or you just overwhelm them to a point where they just kind of like stop paying attention. So yeah, anyway, please do try The Last Flame for yourselves. Again, this is not meant to be a hate piece on The Last Flame. I do think that if you are willing to engage with this kind of complexity, if you're willing to just kind of grind through that, The Last Flame is pretty cool. It's well put together. It works. And honestly, it's a fun, challenging experience for people that enjoy those styles of games. But for me personally, I will not be playing it again because it gives me a little bit of a headache and it's just a lot of work. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And please do let me know what you think about it. I'm a little unsure yet. We're figuring it out, okay? It's the first video. All right, then. I'll see you guys tomorrow.